From the Global Washington Conference in Seattle, Washington, it's the 10th anniversary. I'm Stan Emmert. From the University of Washington College of the Environment, Professor Isabel Zamanillo. From the environment itself.
Yeah.
It's a big challenge.
Yes.
So for those of us who are looking for academics to help us out of this problem, can we get out of it? I mean, can we fix our environment?
That's a great question, and a question that comes often between our students, staff, and even faculty. And from the College of the Environment, which is right now one of the biggest in the U.S. and around the world, we try to think about, okay, how can we prepare our students to go out and resolve these kind of issues? There's no simple answer. The environment, we say there are no environmental issues, they are all social issues. So we're passing from the paradigm from going into completely scientific training to a more interdisciplinary training. Doing this, we have 7 schools, and through the schools we have also 13 research centers, where we are trying to encourage this more holistic perspective. Of course, it takes a change in generation, but the idea will be into looking into the natural environment and looking into humans and non-humans, not as a dichotomy. It's moving forward from that difference between natural world and human world. We are all integrated.
And so, and that's part of the diversity and inclusion aspect of the work that you do through the university itself.
Yes.
So, is there a difference in the way humans in the United States interact with the environment?
Yes, and actually that was part of my research. I was looking into food practices and how these can tell us about how humans connect to nature and how they behave in nature. And actually I saw a difference between immigrant communities and non-immigrant communities, right?
Yeah, what is that?
For example, immigrant communities, I work with Latinx communities coming from Mexico especially, they have this sense of community. They are not thinking as individuals. They are thinking for their families and for future generations. Rather, more Americans think more individually in how I'm living right now and what I have right now. And that is affecting even how they connect with nature through food. If I go just for fast food because it's easy, convenient, and that's the best for the time I have, or rather I take my time and I use food as a way also to understand how nature is providing and how I'm interacting with nature.
You know, I'm kind of curious. I hear the word environment all the time.
Yeah.
What is the environment? In today's world?
Yeah, in today's world, if you will talk about the environment, it's anything that surrounds us. And that includes human and non-human. When we talk about natural environments, then we're talking about ecosystems. But this is something from an academic perspective where we separate the human from the natural environment. Right now, more interdisciplinary perspectives talk about the general environment, and that's where social components are mixed with natural dynamics.
One of the difficulties about academia is that the general public doesn't feel like that there's truly an understanding.
Yep.
Is there an understanding, or is there a movement closer between the general public and academia in such a way that the public can benefit from the advice coming about the environment and how we can fix our problems?
I think that we are moving forward. Still, there has to be a better engagement. We emphasize in our students how to do community-based outreach and public engagement. And we have several courses throughout the college. But the idea here is data as collected to understand the patterns around the world, natural world, for example, regarding climate change or biodiversity loss, are collected by scientists who are part of academia. And at the end, that information goes into policy making processes and affects the local communities. But if we think that it's more effective effective if local communities will collect the data and interact with the scientists and academia to understand better how the data is collected, what are the processes and the variables involved into that data, and collectively make decisions. It will be easier and changes will be faster. Right now what we are seeing is a top-down or top-bottom approach, and that's why it's so slow.
It's not going to work, is it?
Exactly, it's not effective.
That's where, again, the diversity and inclusion comes in.
Exactly.
So from the immigrant community, you talked about the measuring the immigrant community's relationship with the environment and the non-immigrant community.
Yes.
Or we'll just call it that. Can you look at them and say this one is worse on the environment than another one, or does it matter?
I think that the values kind of differ, but this is here when we go into what's environmentally friendly. If you're going to use a set of values such as whoever has more LED bulbs or energy efficient electrodomestics, of course then for example, immigrants won't have those values. The values for them will be conserve cultural food, for example, the same as tribes here in the United States, or maybe going out as a family to connect and to walk in a park or have an excursion, hiking, let's say. In that regards, we can see some difference. But again, it goes into the values, and we have to recognize the importance of cultural values in the ways we are connecting to nature. So, for example, approaches as natural capital consider cultural assets as part of the variables you are using to give a certain value to an ecosystem.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that it's not just about recycling and composting.
Nope. And I wish it was that easy. But there are many tones of greens. There's not just one green, and it's not just being environmentally friendly.
Let's look ahead 10 years.
Yeah.
Can we say that 10 years from now we will have a much better handle on helping our physical environment?
I think that has to be it's right now a necessity. It's just, there's no other option. We have seen the last report from the IPCC, and we are seeing what is coming in the next 10, 50, and 100 years. We are living and seeing those changes. So people are worried. Here the crucial part will be how are we going to collaborate and work together to make sure that we advance in the goals of improving the natural environment or the living conditions of people.
Professor, thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much.
And for the work you do.
Yeah, thanks so much.